Good morning, brothers and sisters, and welcome to the King's Report. My name is Jim Stevens. I'm going to be substituting for Richard Panzer this morning. Richard is involved in the Love Smarts seminar all day today, so he asked me to substitute for him. I've got a program for you, which is mostly an overview of Pyung, the Providence in Pyung over the last 2.5, 3 years. Today is Saturday, February 24th, 2024. So let me begin with a Bible verse. Recently, I've been thinking a lot about the scene in the Garden of Gethsemane where, the Last Supper and then the scene in the Garden of Gethsemane. So this Bible verse is from Luke 22:28. Whoops. Something's wrong. I can't see the top of the Bible verse here. Let me see if I can. Whoops. I'm sorry. Here we go. But you are those who have continued with me in my trials, and I bestow upon you a kingdom, just as my Father bestowed one upon me, that you may eat and drink at my table in my kingdom, and sit on thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. This is Jesus speaking at the Last Supper to his disciples. The disciples were arguing about who would be the greatest. And Jesus told them that it's not the kings, but it's the servants. And he came as a servant. So he told them to do likewise. And that obviously he is going to share his kingdom and that we will sit on thrones judging the 12 tribes of Israel. Then the Lord said, Simon, Simon, indeed, Satan has asked for you that he may sift you as wheat. But I have prayed for you that your faith should not fail. And when you have returned to me, strengthen your brethren. But he, Peter, said to him, Lord, I am ready to go with you, both to prison and to death. And then Jesus said, I tell you, Peter, the rooster shall not crow this day before you will deny 3 times that you know me. So many people have betrayed True Father throughout his life and made God's providence so difficult. But the point that I want to mention this morning about this Bible verse is that Jesus knew his disciples well, and he understood that they would betray him. He could see ahead what was coming. And therefore, we can conclude that True Father understood that he was going to be betrayed as well as he neared the end of his life. So he prepared many things. And part of that preparation, I feel, was Father and God finding this place that we call Pyung in Tennessee and leading the second king and his family here, because God's providence has to continue. There has to be a remnant that can survive and continue God's providence. So God needed protection, and he needed a place for where he could bring his people. We here at Pyung, it started out. Let me start the slides here. This presentation is going to be about Tennessee Pyung. The original purchase was made back in August of 2021, and you can see here's the land that is our more flat land, the usable land, but our property goes all the way up to the top of this mountain range, and all along here. So it's a very, very beautiful place. And the first time I came here, I felt a desire to come here from the very beginning. And the first time I came here, I really felt at home. I felt a spiritual peace here, like a resting place, a place of protection and God's guidance. So now this is flipped. Here's that mountain range, and here's the property I was showing before. This is a real estate website. The original property that we bought was about 150 acres, which is this red line here, and then all the Pyung buildings and everything is down in this area. But then we were able to buy another piece of property here right next to it, which is about 100 additional acres. And then over here in this area we call Cornerstone, with another 70 acres that was bought by a group of members, and about 12 families are going to be living in there. So all told now, in the last 3.5 years or so, we have, at last count, we had 118 adults that have moved down here, and we have 59 children. So, and more coming all the time. So it has been a real migration. It's been a movement of people who recognize that this is the place to be, and surrounding the second king and furthering God's providence to the extent that we can down here. This is a picture from the real estate website at the beginning before we bought the property. The only 2 buildings on the property were this barn, this old tobacco barn where they used to dry tobacco, and this little shed up here. here's an aerial view of the shed, and there's a small pond, or maybe you want to call it a large pond right there. All this has completely changed. This whole area had donkeys on it, so there was a lot of donkey poop all over the place that we had to maneuver around wherever we walked. This is a more close up of that shed. You can see there's some old buildings here. There's an outhouse here. So in the beginning, there wasn't much here. This is the inside of the shed. Here's another view. You can see here's a major highway that goes north and south through eastern Tennessee. So we're very close to that highway. It's very easy access to get out and go to the city, do whatever we need to do. So it was really such an amazing location. And when the second king went there to look at it, he felt right away, immediately, this is the place. And it has a lot of similarities to the Pyung in Korea. Another picture of the barn. Up here over this ridge is an old cemetery, which we believe is a Civil War cemetery where both Union and Confederate soldiers are buried. So it's a hallowed ground again, amazing place. All throughout East Tennessee, there were Civil War battles that took place, and nearby, up on the mountaintop, is an overlook designated as the Veterans Overlook. Tennessee is a state which has a reputation for sending the most volunteers whenever there is a war for freedom. And so Tennessee is a really special place with a special spirit. Another view of the barn from the old days. So what is going on here? Well, I mentioned a little bit that I feel we are really in the beginnings of a civilization here. The Chung Constitution was, brought forward, and the process for building the kingdom of heaven is what we are trying to understand and trying to manifest in a small way here by growing this community and by growing the city, the state, so forth, expanding outward from one point, a true family. Here's a quote from our Father that I really like. The bloody sweat we shed for these people in this country is ultimately for the establishment of God's eternal kingdom. It is to create the blessed land that can be praised by our descendants in the thousands of years and generations to come. The true Father's heart was always, so far ahead, thousands of years and generations looking forward. So he had that incredible sense of history that is hard for those of us living, day in and day out, and doing all the things that we need to do every day to live, to be connected to that incredible perspective of thousands of years and what will take place over the next 10 next generations to come. We here every day we're thinking, what are we doing today that's building the kingdom? And I think through this slideshow, you might get a sense of what can be accomplished, how many things can change so much in just a short span of less than 3 years. The original concept, here's a view. Here's the main highway and the road into the property. And here's where the Welcome Center is now. And we go on up the road to the living area for the second king and many others. Here's that barn. And we had a concept to build eventually the giant sanctuary, the grand sanctuary here. We have from there a trail of tears where we'll explain Father's life course and Father's suffering course. And then a trail of victory, Father's victories, and finally the trail of ascension that goes all the way up to the top of the mountain. So there's a real vision for making this a show place. So we have the event center, we've got places, living places, we've got a pond. All this was conceived before we began a lot of the construction here. So in the beginning, here's some pictures from the very beginning. There was really almost nothing here. Like I showed you the shed and the pond. Here's the second king and queen. Uh, it was really a very, very special time to be able to sit around a campfire together and share. We had a lot of work days. This is that old bathhouse. No, just a bathroom, really, outhouse. Um, so this disappeared, and you can see all this jungle here right behind. All that's gone now. Many, many changes. Here's here's Inspector General Cook Jim, Second King Greg Knoll. I'm not sure who that is. Again, you can see what it was like when we first came here. It's another work that this shed is all gone. There was so much restoration work that needed to be done on the property. Here's the entrance. You can see it was barely a road at that time. Another view of the pond. This was the field that's down from what we call the palace area. Here's the road coming up this way to where the palace is. There's really nothing here. This was a donkey field. Here's another view of that outhouse. These trees are gone. All this bush is gone now. This is where the second king and queen lived for a while. This is where they took showers. This water comes from the pond, so we weren't drinking it. Again, we had some real special times, cooking over a camp stove, hanging out, just talking about the vision. The motorcycles were brought here. People came, were staying in tents for the longest time. This is a trail that went up the mountain to the area which became, we knew there was a mountain spring coming down, so we had fresh spring water. This trail went up that way. And now it's just, you can see it's almost not a trail, but eventually from many, many people going up and down, it becomes much more of a trail. There are fish in that pond. We had some fun sometimes going fishing. All kinds of equipment was brought in. It was a happy place for us to come and spend time. You can see construction is going on behind here. A lot of trees are taken down. So we call it the palace area. This was started out this area, and eventually now it became the place where the king and queen are living and the king's family. This was a chainsaw, the beginnings of a chainsaw, a carving that the second king did. We might see that a little later, I'm not sure. So this is the pond, and they were taking down a lot of trees up on the hillside there. You can see the kind of a construction equipment that we hired to come in. Here's a more distant look. The back is being cleared. There's a huge, huge tree that was taken down. This area is now where the Korean tiny home is. And here, the waterfall is over here. So we'll get to all those things in a short time. This was a big, beautiful tree we had, but it needed to come down. Just massive, massive trees and forest need to be cleared for a civilization. This was one of the, this is a sinkhole. This was discovered right nearby where that outhouse was, because the bulldozer was pushing dirt around and almost fell in this because it was uncovered. There's a massive hole in the ground fills up with water during rainy season. So we learned all kinds of things. A lot of this soil is has a lot of clay in it, so it's very sticky. Here's example of the tents people were living in. We had to put in a lot of pipes in the ground, so we dug many trenches and had to pack the dirt, put it back down. These are pipes for water lines, pipes for septic lines for sewers. We had to put in electrical wiring, many things. So here's now just showing some construction, how much property was cleared behind. This is eventually these houses came. The first winter was the worst one we've had here in Pyung. It was brutal, very cold, a lot of snow, and we didn't have any place to live. Most of the members were still staying in tents throughout this winter. This was the road, of course. This is the kind of situation people were living in these tents in that kind of weather, so cold. So eventually, everybody pretty much moved into the barn just to get away from the snow and the wind. This is another example. This shed was moved down the hill because the tiny home that was purchased for the second king and queen was coming up from Texas. Here's a shot of inside the barn, this old tobacco barn. You can see it has there's holes between all the boards, so it doesn't provide any protection against the weather except maybe the wind. This is the upstairs. This place was full of tents, people living here throughout that first winter. So trying to keep warm. It was really creating a community. People went through a lot of an incredible course to establish a foundation spiritually. The cooking, community cooking was all done outside in big pots. We had to get water from that mountain spring up on the mountains. So every day they went up and got water for drinking. The mud was just unbelievable from all that snow and all the rain we had. This is an example of the kind of mud. It just so much. I took this picture. This is a classic symbolism of what it was like here. The mud and the clay was so thick that it would hook to the bottoms of your boots, and you couldn't get it off. And you'd be walking around, your boots would weigh twice as much because of all the mud on the bottom of your boots. So this is the area we call a campground. So people were staying in tents here all throughout that first winter. This is nearby where the Welcome Center is. You can see how much water comes down that mountain after a rain. And if you cut off all the branches and the shrubbery and the trees, then you've got massive amounts of mud just everywhere. This is the picture back behind the Welcome Center, back towards the shooting range. Just a rain gauge showing that we could get sometimes storms, 3 inches of rain in a short period of time. So the tiny homes were originally purchased down in Texas for the property down there, but it was decided to move them up for living quarters at Pyung. So this is the king and queen's tiny home, arrived from Texas. It's sitting out on the road outside of Pyung, and it was winter that it came. We're celebrating that it finally arrived because it took a long time to organize it to be able to come. This is the pad that was prepared for the king's tiny home. Of course, everything was done very quickly, and it was complicated to get this thing up. We had to cut branches off of trees to be able to move it through the forest there. And it was very difficult to maneuver it, but eventually they got it situated up there on that pad. Then we put concrete foundation under it. We, stabilized it, took the wheels off and everything. Quite a big job. All of these processes take time. They take a lot of effort, a lot of engineering, a lot of people. Again, and more snow came. Here's another example of trenches that were put in. Again, more trenching, more mud. Again, this is a picture of people's tents down there. So here's that outhouse again. You can see we've cleared away the trees behind there, clearing all this space. Here's that sinkhole I showed you before. These trees are gone now. In fact, there's a dojo that has been built here, and a couple of travel trailers are here. There's you can see we flattened this area here. And then this is a picture of the Japanese tiny home that came up from Texas. The palace area is over here. This is the pond area. You can see that, this was placed, then we had to hook up the septic lines, the water lines to this house, and the Korean tiny house is over here on the other side. Same situation, more trenching. There's a huge septic system that was put in the ground, underground, with a large leach field where all the sewage would go. Again, another picture of progress. This is a concrete pad that was put in. Eventually, we built a dojo here and a motorcycle garage. This is much later now. You can see this is a pump house for the well. This is the Korean tiny home. This is the barn down here. This is the house we've been building for the Third King's parsonage. This is the Japanese tiny home. It's a home for security, Shigeru. And you can see this greenhouses that came in and Swan Lake. So I'm going to show each of those more separately. So from the very beginning, we started having Sunday service here with all outside in the midst of construction and the weather, of course. Some days were pretty cold for church. And this is another example of Sunday service. We were all, sitting in chairs or on the ground behind here. Eventually, when a lot of people were here for events, we got a big tent to hold church in. Still, it was really cold, I recall. Eventually, spring came and we could take the walls down. The first blessing was held right after the Rod of Iron Freedom Festival. Everybody drove down here quickly, and the first blessing was held on the property in that first year, I believe, in 2021. And so this platform was built down by the pond. And I forget, I think it was 4 or 5, maybe 6 couples were blessed at that time. I know I'm going fast, but I've got over 200 pictures to show you, and I wanted to be able to show most of them. If you want to look at something real for a much longer time, I think you can just pause the video later on. This was a little celebration we had, myself and my wife. And then there were a number of blessings that took place here each year after the Rod of Iron Freedom Festival. This is a special blessing. It was on God's Day a year ago. This family is from Tennessee, and they joined Sanctuary Church maybe 2 years ago now. And of course, the Third King had a very, very special blessing event that took place here last spring. This is up on the waterfall just to show you. So here's an aerial view again of the property. Now we've got this is the palace area and the pond. From here, you go up this way. There's a trail that goes up to the mountain spring where we get fresh spring water. And we've got pipes that come down from the spring and deliver water to this area and also to down here by, they call this Swan Lake. But the Trail of Tears, the Trail of Victory, the Trail of Ascension are all over on this side of the property. So you would go past the barn, you'd walk up here, go through this field, and then go up the Trail of Ascension. And then this goes up and up and up and all the way up to the top of the mountain, which doesn't show in this picture. So this is the spring when we initially found or went up to the source of the spring water. So we were able to, the king was with us, and we dug out a hole in the mountainside where the spring was originating out of the mountain. So once we dug a place for a big pool of water to accumulate, then we filled it with rocks and we stuck a pipe in it. So the water would run out of that pool. It's coming out of the mountains into the pool, and then it would run out of the pool through the pipe. And we set up the spring water where we could collect spring water. The king, did everything there. Of course, it ran muddy at first, but eventually was clear running water. And here's the second king and queen. This is Shingun. All kinds of improvements are always being added to every situation. Here's the spring over here. Eventually, it was difficult to cross here, so a bridge was built. Now this is up on the top of the mountain, the Trail of Ascension. When you go up the Trail of Ascension, you arrive at this gigantic rock, and you can see we cut down some trees so you can see Cherokee Lake off in the distance. This is a very, very beautiful view. Cherokee Lake, Morristown areas over here. This is a huge, huge lake system in Tennessee. It's a very beautiful, beautiful area. And then if you go along, you follow these red markers along the top of the mountain, the ridge, you'll eventually come to a red pine tree, which the second king discovered. Not this one, trail. Okay, here's the red pine tree. These are very rare in this part of Tennessee, and but the second king found it, and then it was very, very special to have one of these. Father loved red pine trees, and there are red pine trees in Pyung in Korea. It took us about, say, 40 minutes to climb to the top of the Trail of Ascension, and then another 15 or 20 minutes to get to the red pine tree. So younger people can make it faster. My wife and I are still in pretty good shape. We have a lot of pavilion making material that eventually up on that mountaintop, we're going to put some kind of observatory. I took this picture to give you some kind of perspective of how steep places are on that mountaintop. Climbing that mountain. These steps were put in by the Unification Academy when they were here. We have a lot of projects that the young people do when they're here, part of the academy. They really contribute to Chung, Providence, and the area. We had all kinds of this. It always amazed me to see the massive equipment that it takes and the work that can be done in a short period of time with this incredible equipment. This is an electric company brought in. They drill a hole, they put down a pole, they cut down massive amounts of trees. this is a electric pole going up by the Welcome Center. But they do this kind of work in a matter of a day, just with the equipment. I mean, my training is in engineering, so equipment really fascinates me. What they can be done. This is a well drilling machine. So these are pipes. They drill down and they insert one of these pipes, and they drill down, they insert another pipe. So the the well that had to be drilled for the palace area was something like 700 feet deep before they could find enough of a water supply for what we needed. Here's another view of an electric company coming in to set up poles. We need an electric pole here for the greenhouses and for the Swan Lake area. So those are big, heavy machines. Just some of them got stuck in the mud. Here we're building the waterfall. So big construction equipment, excavators are brought in. Huge boulders are being moved to landscape this area. Because there's so much mud, this is down where the Welcome Center was built. The water table. The water table is very close to the surface, so we would put down gravel, and the gravel would sink in the mud and practically disappear. So we come in another load of gravel. This truck got stuck because the gravel is like floating on mud, and we had to. I don't know if you can tell, we had hooking up this chain, tried to pull him out of the mud he got stuck in. Some more shots of excavators at work, moving giant boulders, knocking down trees, clearing all kinds of brush. This is the bulldozer that we had on the property, which we eventually bought from the original owners of the property. This is Terry Wilt, who's been a tremendous help to us. He works on the property every day as our handyman and has a bobcat. Here he's using these railroad ties to build a bridge across the stream. There's a dump truck. Now I'm going to share a little bit about orchard and the greenhouses. As you can see, this is the area. We've cleared all kinds of brush and trees. This would be still the shed is up on the hill there. And all this area is going to be developed, but it had to be cleared first. More brush. All this was, burned eventually. Again, more shots of the empty field before all the construction. Here the king's tiny home has arrived. That shed was moved to here. You can see still all kinds of trees on the hillside that haven't been cleared yet. They're just the beginnings of the waterfall. They laid down a black plastic tarp so that they could construct over it. And you can see we're putting in markers for where the orchard trees are going to be planted. Now, this is much later on where the Korean tiny house, the Japanese tiny house have arrived. This house is being built for Shigeru's family. The greenhouses have been, put up. So things really changed. Here's another shot up the hillside there. All this area has been planted, and it's grassy now. The spring is, of course, really beautiful here. You can see that this is the dojo and motorcycle garage that was created, that was built. Joe Dispenza and his team have been just incredible. All the things that they have built and put up. Over here is a tea house, which I'm going to show you later. A couple of travel trailers up there. And here's the beginnings of the home for the third king. So he can live on the property and raise his family here. Another picture is the third king's house is being built, and these orchard trees were, you know, just beginning to um, grow enough where they can start producing some fruit. Down closer to the entrance is the campground area. I showed you this picture where people stand there all winter. Again, this is close to the water table, so we had to put in gravel. Paul Addis and his team have been building cabins down there. You can see this cabin, one was built already there. Tents, here's just an example of the mountains of gravel that have gone into this property. We're very fortunate. Again, I think God prepared. There's a quarry where we can buy gravel just a very, very short distance away, and a lumber mill very close by. So just, we couldn't have asked for a more prepared place to build this community, this little kingdom of heaven. Platforms were built for these kind of yurts for camping. Here's a finished cabin. Back here's another one. There's two cabins and two platforms. A lot of times for holiday events, King's family will and guests will eat breakfast here. Waterfall and the pond. I mentioned this is a lot of the brush that was cleared. The pond is up here. This is where the waterfall is going to be built. And so all this brush is downstream from the pond. And so we cleared all this, made a nicer little stream, and more, beautification is always taking place. Pond it needed to be cleaned up a lot. This is the hillside. The trail goes up to the spring water up that way. So we cleared trees back up the mountainside there. Here's the beginnings. This is the base of the waterfalls, and more construction I showed you before. So we put water pumps in the pond to pump water up and recycle it through the waterfall. We got these I forget the name of these these plants. we only bought a few of them, but they multiplied like crazy. Here's bamboo, which we got, putting bamboo in the area for making Oriental garden. There's a little gift here. I guess that's a tiger. It came again, another picture of the waterfall. Here's the second king did these carvings of guardian crusaders with a chainsaw. Another view. Here's the guardians again. And the tea house was put in right on site there at the pond. The tea house is an area for the second king's office and a place for entertaining guests or counseling, or just it's also a studio where he's been doing parts of music videos. This is excavating a small pond here in front of the tea house. The big pond is behind the tea house. So there's going to be a waterfall in this area coming down to this pond. And we also brought the koi, had a huge number of koi brought down from a pond in Pennsylvania that and put in the pond back here. So this has become a really beautiful area. now it's being, landscaping is pretty much finished, and the trees are growing, shrubs are growing, and waterfall. There's koi in this pond, koi in this pond. We have a fence here, nice um, Korean style fence. Excuse me. The lantern. This is the Korean tiny house down the hillside. Another one. Here's another view. It's a rock walkway over to the tea house. This is a view from behind. Okay, Swan Lake. In the beginning, this fence was here and was all muddy. This was just marsh. It was this old donkey shed there where they fed the donkeys, and it was a place where donkeys could go in the bad weather, I guess. Um, Again, this whole field was marsh and muck. The remains of donkeys were there everywhere. Again, this different view. So this whole area was cleared and made into Swan Lake, which we call it Swan Lake. And you can see this. this is the spring that comes down from the palace pond, and this is being cleared. This whole area will be cleared. This is the beginnings of preparations for making that lake, excavating. Again, big equipment was brought in to prepare dig the hole, prepare all the area around it. We had to create a huge dam to hold this lake. I forget how, I think it's about 12 feet deep. And so the massive amount of dirt came out of the lake and then was used to build up a huge dam. Okay, here's a dam all around Swan Lake. In order to hold that amount of water, it really had to be a massive dam. And this excavator is digging. So we had to put an overflow pipe in Swan Lake. So when the rains come and it fills up, there's a way for the water to escape. So there's underground, there must be underground springs there because we didn't have to do anything to fill up the lake. It wasn't, the amount of water coming down this stream was not enough to fill this lake, but it was filling up almost from the beginning. It became difficult to dig it out, actually. So here's a view from out towards the entrance of the property. This little island was kept in the middle. Here's an example of water overflowing the Swan Lake and going out the pipes. But when it rains, all the logs came up from the mud, floated around in the lake, and we had to clear those out. It was always mud, something to do. This pipe came down from the spring up on the mountainside so that we could have fresh water delivered down here. So we had various formation stage, growth stage development of the spring. Eventually, we got a faucet on it, and you could, get a drink here of the mountain spring water. This is one of the koi. I saw him swimming around in Swan Lake. Nobody put him there, so he must have gone in the overflow pipe up at the palace pond and wiggled his way down the stream until he finally got into Swan Lake. So here's another view of the lake. We put up a protective fence because I mentioned before, we got 59 children toddling around, so we have to be careful of potential danger. We're putting in, these guys are, one of our construction teams. They're putting in the bridge over to the island. Here's the island. This was just a few months ago. This picture was taken. Now the construction of a gazebo is going on out on the island, and we've got a dock in now. This almost finished, and when the second king's son Shinduk Nim gets blessed in June, it's going to be held here in the gazebo. So the welcome center and the shooting range. This is what it looked like in the beginning. Just a view. There's a valley that goes up the mountain there, but this whole land was kind of flat and marshy. So winter doesn't stop us. They start building and always building. But you can see the snow and the mud that came in the early stages of building the Welcome Center. A lot of water comes down this valley and off this mountain. So we had a flood in the back. It almost flooded the Welcome Center. Joe Dispenza hurried over there with a pump to get the water out of here. This was a possible tragedy, but it was averted. A lot of brush, again, was cleared and burned. This is developing the shooting range that's going to be behind the Welcome Center for people to go shooting after church. This is the stream along the side of the road. It can get really massive when there's big rains. This across the road from the Welcome Center, the electrical company just cut down all these trees and just left them there so that they could bring that electrical wire down. The Welcome Center is going to be over here on the left. All these trees on the mountain, on the mountainside here, the king wanted this turned into a garden area. So all these trees were taken down. We had to hire guys to come in with these kind of buckets to cut down the branches. And that was amazing work they do. Again, so much gravel was needed. Big rocks and then smaller rocks and gravel. You can see this whole hillside now has been cleared of all those trees. Now we've got roses growing here and many other things. This is the Welcome Center in the early days. Again, this is another picture of all the trees have been cleared, gravel there. We had to put in so much gravel because it would just disappear into the mud. Again, it's that gravel truck that got stuck. So here was the Welcome Center in the beginning. We had but as more and more people started coming, the shoes, of course, were all over here, and when it rained, everybody's shoes got wet, and people were taking off their shoes out here in the rain. So then we had to, we need a roof that comes out here. Events started taking place right away as soon as the Welcome Center was ready to go. God's Day was celebrated here. Again, this is the clearing of all of those trees across the way. This is the picture back behind the Welcome Center. It's sort of the development of the shooting range. And these were put up as, tactical training. We had to bring in over a dozen loads of wood chips to have some kind of road to go back there. You can see all the trees were cut down, how much firewood there was. This area is across the stream from the Welcome Center, a bit of a flat area. The king was really concerned about the children knowing how to swim. So we brought in wood chips and made a base, put up a swimming pool, and we had swimming classes for the kids. This is Yumi Hoshino. She's a swimming teacher. So here's some of our construction guys. So here's the porch was added to the Welcome Center. Concrete floor was added. So now there's lots of space for people to sit outside. Finally, we got bathrooms. This took a long, long time. We've got concrete here in front now, men's and women's, only two genders. For the longest time, that's all we had for 2 years, maybe, just porta potties. The old shed that was originally here on the property was brought down as a nursery because we got so many babies and so many toddlers. So this was painted and set. This is the Welcome Center here, set right next to the Welcome Center. Inside is chairs for nursing mothers and so forth. Playground for the kids. Gradually things are developing. Got a sandbox, got a ladder. Again, this is more what the shooting range looks like now. We've got these shooting stands. This is more of a view of the front of the Welcome Center now, where events take place. In the back, this was originally what the back of the Welcome Center looked like. This was an open porch. That was eventually closed in and made the green room for the second king and queen to prepare before holiday events and so forth. So this has been closed in, and we've added a pavilion in the back, an open air pavilion for events to take place in the back. So this has been added now, and we're constructing walls, not complete walls, but half walls. Excuse me. Back of the Welcome Center here. Electricity, we'll have lights and fans and everything back there. Things always changing. Chickens and goats, this was a view early on from up on the hillside down towards the back of the barn. We got the chicken shed here, and got goats up on the hill there. They got baby chickens, and raised them. This is the chicken pen. This is the goat barn that was built. So always. Future Event Center. This is the up on the mountain side, overlooking our property is all over here on the right, and here's the highway, the main highway. So from up here on the mountainside is the perfect location to build a big church and event center, so that we can see the highway, but we can also see the beautiful mountain view, and there'll be big glass windows so that you can look out and see the mountain views. This is an older sketch of kind of what the event center might look like. You've probably seen this before. So construction was started, tearing down trees, burning bush, more and more. This went up there with the second king and talked about vision for what we're going to have up there. And really it is an ideal location as far as the location goes, but there are quite a number of issues with building a building there. That this is a view down. The properties over here, most of it, then this is towards the sawmill and so forth. And down here, just at the last Sunday service, it was announced that there's going to be a cemetery at Chung. It'll be in this area. Here's a picture which you probably don't know what this is. The history of this is that we have to build a septic system for an event center, and the mountaintop is all rock, and so we had to find a place where we could be allowed to build a septic system for all of the sewer water, or excess water from the event center. And so we ended up having to go 1,500 feet off the mountain, a long ways away until we could. The government requires that you dig a hole that's 3 feet deep and you fill it with water, and that water has to disappear in just a matter of hours before you can build a septic system there. So this was a hole that was dug and it was marked so that they could come and do the tests. More trees. We had to bring in massive equipment to dig in the rocks. These rocks, the Rock Mountain is just unbelievable. What it took. They had to bring in the biggest equipment they had. This is a jackhammer. I don't know if you can tell very well from this picture. This is a giant jackhammer that was required to break up all these rocks. It's another picture of the jackhammer. So much rock was cleared, and then it was just like, they moved the back part of the new event center is going to be against the mountain or going against the hillside. So all of the rock was dug out of here and pushed over here, made that big mound. This is the space that's going to be here in here. So this is where we are right now as far as the construction goes on the new event center. So we're doing outreach. As you all know, there's going to be many rallies this year for President Trump and the upcoming election. We've got the Trump truck. So if you haven't seen this, it's really something. It was signed by Donnie Trump Jr. on the side. We've got postcards that we can hand out, inviting people to Sunday service. We've got a sign up at the beginning of the property. We've got our own street. We've got our mailboxes. This is the entrance now. And we teach divine principle lectures. People are invited to my home or elsewhere. We can teach the principle, and really appreciate your attention. It's been really an amazing blessing to be here. My family, my wife and I were the first ones to move down here, and we were asked to move here by the second king. And from that time, we've been able to kind of see the progress and keep praying and asking God, what's going on here? So I really sincerely invite all of you to sometime come here, experience this place and feel the spirit here, and join in our community. God is doing an amazing work here, and it's something to behold. It's the beginnings, just the beginnings, but it's a chance to feel and see, what God is doing in the world today on the microcosmic level. And every Sunday we have Sunday service. Wednesdays we have Korean service. Many different activities you can plug into. So think about it. Contact me, contact somebody else, and we can help arrange for you to come and visit. Thank you again for your attention, and God bless you all. May his kingdom come. Amen.